all so much for coming here today. It's going to be a lively day, we hope. Good, and we will get a lot done. I appreciate your dedication to establishing and securing the conservative principles and platform of the Republican Party in Texas, and I look forward to the successes we will achieve today. I want to first give special thanks to our Arrangements Committee Chairwoman, Patty Maggio, for her leadership and direction in managing registration and the details of the venue, as well as the physical arrangements for this convention. Awesome work. Thank you, Patty. Today we will accomplish much in a short amount of time. Yes, it is a short. We have until 5 o'clock to ensure that we are moving forward in accordance with Robert's Rules of Orders to complete our business. And as the RPT requires, we will be allowing candidates and officials to speak today. Each one will be allowed up to 5 minutes. And we're honored with our first speaker today is Senator Bob Hall.
Thank you, Sharon. First, I just want to say thank you guys for being here and to tell you that I am just truly humbled and honored to have the privilege of being able to serve you. And believe me, I do look at this as a servant's job, which all elected officials should look at their job. But this is where it starts. This is the foundation. This is where we start laying out what our party should be doing. And believe me, I am very supportive of the Republican Party and the platform it lays out. We won't always agree on the order of things, but we will agree on what's well to the right. And that's where we need to be. And what we need to do is remember that the primary purpose of government is to protect individual liberties, not to be provided the free stuff. And so, as we move out and work through this, I look forward to seeing what you come up with the priorities. And for those of you who have not been to a convention, I think you're in for a real treat. I have not yet been to one that I didn't think was absolutely fantastic to be at. The opportunity to talk with others, to get ideas, to use our ears to listen to what others have to say, and get new and better ideas on ways to do things, because sometimes when we stay in small groups, we tend not to expand very much. And so it is a great opportunity, and those of you who get on committees and are down there for the whole week, I think you will really, really enjoy it. And I would just say the priorities of what I saw from coming out of the last session, somewhere near the top. There will be some differences on some things. We made some real progress on Second Amendment items. We made good progress on life last time. We've got other areas that we came up short on. One of them at the top of my list is to rein in government powers, executive powers. They are far too overreaching. And all of you now seen what it leaves us when your elected legislators have no voice in what's being said, what's being done, which we have not had, because we cannot go into session, and the way the current law is written, the governor can declare himself absolutely in control, and we have no say in it. That has to change. We cannot go through another 2 weeks to flatten the curve and be still looking at it 2 years later. We did some advancements in election security, but we are not there. We are not where we need to be on election security. Now, I don't worry about Rockwall. You've got one of the finest elections offices in the state. I guarantee you that. It is not Rockwall that I'm worried about. It's the Harris counties, the Dallas counties, the Bexar counties, the Travis counties. Between them, they make almost 30% of the vote for Texas. So we've got to be concerned about what goes on in these big counties. So if we come up with some things that causes a little more effort to make sure votes count, folks, security trumps convenience every day of the week. It might not be convenient to do some things, but it's going to be needed in order to protect our elections. One of the things that's going to be proposed is to change the way we do in-person voting. Right now we have three processes. We have early voting, mail-in ballots, and election day. They're all similar, but they operate under three different sets of rules. We only need two: in-person voting and mail-in ballots. Now, as far as I'm concerned, mail-in ballots should be limited to those that cannot be in the state and are disabled. Just because you turn 65 is no excuse not to show up in person and vote. If you can go to Walmart, you can go to the polls and vote. In in-person voting, 20 other states have an election period. You start on one day and end on election day with no gap in between. That gap gives a great opportunity for people to take the memory cards from early voting, download them and reload them with the answers they want. That is our major source of voter fraud in our larger counties. We need to eliminate that gap and have just a voting period. Those would be the key things on election. We need to go back and put the penalties back in that were inadvertently taken out at the last minute with the previous bill that was passed. Second big item is our border security. It is time for Texas to do what it can do to take control of our borders. I've had two bills that I filed just about every session. One was on an interstate compact for border security. That simply would have us join in with one other state, get congressional approval, and then we would have the authority to enforce federal law. Right now our hands are tied because the state has no authority to enforce federal law. We cannot intercept illegal aliens and do anything other than turn them over to ICE. The other would be to take advantage of what's called a 287G program, which was dialed back by Biden. This is a program that allows our local law enforcement folks to go take a 2-week course in federal law, and then they can enforce federal law. So those are at the top of my list. There are several others there. I just want to thank you for being here. Look forward to seeing you down in Houston for the convention. And God bless you. God bless Texas.
Thank you, Senator Hall. We have a couple of other candidates and officials who are here. If any of you would like to come and who have indicated they want to speak, if you would like to speak at this time, you're welcome to, or you can wait. Who's ready? All right, Frank News ready? Are you going to go first? Oh, dear. Okay. SREC Chairwoman, our SREC woman, Terry Fisher.
I'm sorry, should I do it myself? Okay. Just broke it. I'm sorry, but I have 4 more conventions to go to this morning. And I won't be as long as Bob, because I know y'all gonna be here a long day. Okay. I am State Republican Executive Committee woman for SD2. And as you know, SD2 has redistricting, so I no longer have East Texas, but now I have Navarro, Ellis County, so I'm headed to Navarro as soon as I leave here. I have served 2 terms as SREC, and this last term I was the Resolution Committee Chairman. So I want to thank you all for passing our 10 resolutions or 10 propositions. My committee was in charge of that, and I thank y'all for passing those. And I am your voice on the RPT, so anything y'all want, need, just let me know. And I thank you all for putting me there the last 2 terms. But I'm asking for your vote for this next time, and thank you to my husband, who's my chauffeur 3 nights a week. Thank y'all.
You may not recognize my face, you may recognize my voice. I am the Hawk Athletics for Rockwall ISD, and have the privilege of calling our student athletes' names and students' names, and have done so since 2016. My family and I have been residents here in Rockwall County since 2014. Pastored a church here from 2014 until 2020. Unfortunately, as Senator Hall mentioned, that flatten the curve restrictions played a major effect on our church. But nevertheless, in the time that we were afforded, we were able to serve our RISD campuses. Each teacher, each faculty member, each staff member was encouraged and ministered to through our church. We were on every campus in Rockwall ISD serving Sonic drinks, because who doesn't love Sonic Ice when you're teaching students every day? And so we were able to minister to our teachers and faculty and staff through that. I'm married to my wife, Lauren, who is a nurse at Jones Elementary, and we have 5 children who are at Heath High School, Linda Lyon Elementary, and Sharon Shannon Elementary. And so, needless to say, we've got 4 out of 24 Rockwall ISD campuses in our house alone. And so it's very important that our district remain strong and remain steadfast and be successful. And we're facing a couple of challenges. First and foremost is the teacher shortage not just in our area, but in our state. Teachers over the last 2 years have faced incredible stress. Most of that because of those flatten the curve measures. And so now we're facing a shortage of teachers and looking ahead into the future. Our county is growing, our student population is growing, and we've got to do better at recruiting and retaining our teachers. And so my hope is to be a voice on our board to get high quality teachers into our district who are going to continue to make us a successful district. Obviously, we're growing in curriculum and instruction, and so working with our in-house curriculum and instruction team to make sure that our students are getting a quality education, to make them model citizens. I want our students to be sitting in conventions like this in the years to come, being active and involved in our community, not just in their extracurricular activities, but in civics like what we're doing here this morning. My hope is to continue to advocate for strong financial transparency and financial accountability. Our district wins awards across the nation, being in the top 1% of financial transparency and financial accountability. So I want to continue to be a voice for that, to maintain that direction that David Carter and his team has set in motion. But ultimately, my hope is to be a voice for you. If you have students in the district, grandchildren, children, nieces, nephews, I want to be a voice for our community and be someone who is listening to what is going on and what's being said, and advocate for you from behind that desk downtown at the school district building. So I'm grateful, again, to have your support. I would love to visit with you if you have questions about anything that I've said this morning or specific issues that are of concern to you. I would love the opportunity to visit with you. Again, I'm Sam Britton, running for RISD Board of Trustees, Place 4.
We're just going to go ahead and take care of a few of these before we get started. So we also have school board candidate Lee Harvey.
Good morning, everyone. Didn't want to interrupt everybody's breakfast. I thought I was speaking later in the day, but a great opportunity. For those who don't know me already, my name is Lee Harvey. Insert joke here. Older people get it. Some of the younger people don't. I'm running for RISD Place 4. And so I'll give you a brief introduction because a lot of you, I have a lot of familiar faces, but those who don't know who I am, I'm a father, a husband, and a parent that's been extremely active in our community. I've done and worked with coaching soccer from a really young age. I had an opportunity, a real smart guy that worked with our company told me one time, he said, when your kids get old enough, make sure at whatever capacity you can to coach, mentor, whatever that looks like, whether that's bringing water to the field, whether that's holding a towel, it doesn't matter what that looks like, just make sure you're active and you're involved. And that resonated with me, but I'm not a water guy, I'm not a towel holder, so of course I had to run for a head coach and did that for many years as my children were growing up. And, I'm going to do things a little differently. Instead of just talking about being who I am, I'll give you a brief introduction on that side, but I also want to open it up to questions. So if you have questions, because one of the things I'm asking for is transparency. And I want to be fully transparent with everybody here, right? And so if you have questions about anything that I'm about to say, or why I'm running, right? The 3 core reasons why I'm running is, number one, taxes. I see and we hear this all the time, that our tax rate is going down, yet my tax bill every year keeps going up more and more. Why is that? The other one is transparency over what is our district doing? Where is their money going? How are these bonds at $500 million, how are they getting passed through so quick? And the third one would be, what are our children learning? What are they being taught? We have some phenomenal teachers here in Rockwall. That's why we moved here in 2005, was because of the school districts. Top of the nation, certainly top of the Dallas, Texas area. So that's why Maria and I moved here. We have 3 children. 2 are in Rockwall High School. We have 1 in middle school. Last year we were represented in Williams, Celia Hayes Williams, and in Rockwall High School. Now we have 1 in middle school and 2 in Rockwall High School. So we are fully invested in Rockwall. That's enough about me. If you have questions, please raise your hand. I don't think I have much time left, but maybe 1 or 2 questions. No questions. All right, so I don't know how much time I have left, but a little bit more about me. 2005 is when we moved here, made our community, made Rockwall our forever community. We wanted to, and we have been extremely involved. Maria, my wife, put up with me for 18 years, plus I definitely outrunted my yardage on that one. But she's been phenomenal. She was involved in PTA. She's done that throughout each one of our children through elementary school. Sorry, and as we progress, so we've always been involved in our community. Bible study at church. Again, if I'm going to get involved in something, I want to be leading it rather than sitting behind the scenes. But anyhow, please come and find me. If you have any questions about the 3 things that I just mentioned, 3 core reasons why I'm running, it goes much deeper than that. But the 3 core principles, I think, resonates, and everybody I've spoken to can relate to those. So come find me, ask me some questions. I'd be glad to answer them for you. Thank you. Lee Harvey for RISD, place 4. Look forward to earning your vote. Thank you.
And then Frank New, are you still here, Frank? Here we go. Candidate with County Judge.
Good morning. My name is Frank New. I am running for Rockwall County Judgment runoff. Starts mid-May. The thing that I want to tell you today, I suspect there's not 2 people out there who don't know who they're voting for. So in that line, I want to tell you, my message for you is, take a deep breath. Just relax. It's going to be okay. Competition is good. In the party, competition is good. In the state, competition is good. There's no harm in it. This is not 1970s Worldwide Wrestling Federation. The loser does not have to leave town. Will still be active, and typically the better man wins. So I would encourage you to just relax. Everything's going to be okay. Now, if you want to find information about me, franknew.com is a good place to go. Or Frank New for Rockwall County Judge on Facebook. And if you want to see how I've handled adversity, handled wins, losses, struggles, go back and look at my East City Council page on Facebook.
report of the Permanent Resolutions Committee, and then adjournment. All that. So we will now proceed to establish the voting members of this convention. The secretary will call the roll. Do you have your numbers? No? Okay. Francis is bringing us to. The roll is determined by the list submitted by each precinct convention. The roll, no, just the numbers. The roll has been taken and the secretary will read the results in just a minute.
The roll has been taken. There are 18 delegations present with a combined voting strength of 65, and the total number of delegates attending at the start of the convention is 65.
Thank you, Alma. Now the Temporary Credentials Committee hears contests and challenges concerning the seating of delegates and alternates. The committee is also responsible for recommending the permanent role of delegates and alternates who will serve for the remainder of this convention. The chair of the Temporary Credentials Committee will now give the committee report. Francis White.
When you're short, you have to take the long way around. Legs don't quite make it up there. But my secretary also said she couldn't do it either, so it's delegates and alternates. There were no contests filed. The Temporary Credentials Committee recommends that the following delegates were duly elected by the respective precinct conventions. We recommend that these delegates be seated at this convention. By direction of the committee, I move adoption of the Temporary Credentials Committee report. And I have the names of all the people who signed in to be delegates on sign-in sheets.
All right, the question is on the adoption of the report of the Temporary Credentials Committee. The motion does not require a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the report of the Temporary Credentials Committee say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The report of the Temporary Credentials Committee has been adopted. I would like to thank the committee for their work in preparing this report. The Temporary Rules Committee recommends any supplementary rules which shall be used during the remainder of the convention. These rules may include such items as time limits for speeches, length of debate, method of state delegate and alternate selection. The Temporary Rules Committee, Tiffany Miller. Chair Tiffany Miller will now give the committee's report.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the committee that have composed. It was Ken DeCulpepper, Mark Russo, Sandra, Owen B., Kyle Wagner, Julie Owen, and David Roth. We met this morning and we unanimously voted and approved the following rules to be submitted. Bear with me, I read them all. The Rules Committee, having met, discussed the procedures of the convention, finds and recommends that the following supplementary rules or amendments, which are not in conflict with the Texas Election Code or the rules of the Republican Party of Texas, should be adopted for the orderly transaction of business at this convention. Supplementary Rule Number 1, Adoption and Amendment of Rules, Clarification. The supplementary rules for the 2022 Rockwall County Republican Convention are adopted in accordance with Rule Number 10, Supplementary Convention Rules, under the Republican Party of Texas, General Rules for all conventions and meetings, approved and revised by the State Republican Executive Committee on February 12, 2022. Supplementary Rule Number 2, Seating. A delegate seating is assigned by precinct. All delegates are required to sit only in the designated space. Visitors will only be admitted to the convention hall by permission of the convention chair. Since it's traditional for elected officials and candidates for office to speak, and considering the limited seating, speeches by elected officials shall be limited to 5 minutes each, and candidates shall be limited to 5 minutes. Supplementary Rule Number 3, Conduct of Delegates. Since business must be conducted under limited conditions, cell phones and other telephonic devices must be turned to off or vibrate while in the convention hall. If anyone needs to use any such device, he or she must either leave the convention hall or confine all conversation to convention business. Except for still pictures, no live recording of convention business proceedings will be allowed without prior approval from the convention chair. The convention chair may ask any person attending the convention to step out of the convention hall for disrupting the convention. Supplementary Rule Number 4, Recognition by the convention chair. Any delegate wishing to address the convention shall rise and wait to be recognized by the convention chair. Upon recognition by the convention chair, the delegate shall state their name and precinct number before making a motion or point. The sergeant at arms shall assist in gaining recognition for delegates wishing to speak. Supplementary Rule Number 5, Debate on motions or resolutions. If the convention chair expects debate on a motion, issue, or resolution, he or she will ask those speaking in favor to line up on one side of the room, and those speaking in opposition to line up on the other side of the room. When debating an issue, each speaker will, upon recognition by the convention chair, state their name, precinct number, and position on the motion, issue, or resolution. Discussion will continue in alternate positions, for or against, up to 2 speakers on each side of the issue. If no response or debate is offered, the discussion will end and will go to vote. Supplementary Rule Number 6, Limitations on time for debate. Main motion, a delegate may speak once on any motion or resolution for 1 minute. Amendments and secondary motions, a delegate may speak once for 1 minute on any amendment. Committee reports, the delegate making the committee report or minority report of any convention committee may speak on such report for up to 10 minutes, which includes time to answer any questions on the report. There shall be a limit of 2 speakers on each side of each issue. Then the motion or resolution will go to a vote unless there is a specific majority vote that can mention otherwise. A majority vote, the convention may limit or extend equally the time and the number of speakers for each side of the debatable motion. Supplementary Rule Number 7, Nominations, Selection, and Election of Rockwall County Delegates and Alternates to the 2022 Republican Party of Texas State Convention. In order to both simplify and provide for a fair and orderly delegate alternate selection process, which is in harmony with the Texas Election Code and the rules of the Republican Party of Texas, and with knowledge that based on voting strength in the 2018 gubernatorial general election, the Republican Party of Texas has allocated to Rockwall County 55 delegates and 55 alternates to attend the 2022 Republican Party of Texas State Convention, representing Rockwall County Republican Party. The Rockwall County delegates shall be selected as follows. The number of delegates, alternates to be allocated to each precinct shall be prepared in advance in an equitable fashion. The allocation allows 0 delegates to precincts without representation at the county convention. Precinct chairs may release any unused precinct delegate alternate allocations to the nominations committee to be used as additional at-large delegates or alternates. The convention's nominations committee will receive, consider, and recommend delegate and alternate nominations as a whole in a report to the convention. At least 10 delegates and 10 alternates will be recommended and elected at large. Delegates or alternates recommended and elected do not need to be present at the county convention. Madam Chair, the Rules Committee moves that these are approved as presented.
The question is on the adoption of the supplemental rules. This motion does not require a second. Is there any discussion? The chair recognizes A.J. Western.
Point of information, was there a limit on the number of speakers for and against for each motion?
Two for, two against.
How are those going to be decided?
When they come up, they will advance to the microphone, and we'll have two signs, for or against, and then you just come up, it's the first two that come up.
So it's like that action front.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The rules also say that we can add more people at the vote of the body. That's part of that rule.
Yes, after the rules do state that after two on either side, if there's a proper motion made and approved and voted on to extend it to additional people in time, we're allowed to do that.
Further discussion? Question is on the adoption of the supplemental rules. This motion does not require a second. All those in favor of adopting the report of the Temporary Rules Committee say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. The report of the Temporary Rules Committee has been adopted. I would like to thank the committee for their work in preparing the report. Thank you, Tiffany. The Permanent Organization Committee recommends the permanent officers who will be voted on and preside over the remainder of the convention. The committee will only recommend individuals who are delegates currently in attendance at the convention. Edna Sullivan, the chair of the Permanent Organization Committee, will now give the committee report.
Good morning. Madam Chair, by direction of the Permanent Organization Committee, I move the election of Sharon Henson as Permanent Convention Chair.
The name of Sharon Henson has been recommended by the Permanent Organization Committee for the position of Permanent Convention Chair. Are there any other nominations for Permanent Convention Chair? The chair declares that nominations for Permanent Convention Chair are now closed. All those in favor of Sharon Henson for Permanent Convention Chair say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Sharon Henson has been elected Permanent Convention Chair. Thank you.
Madam Chair, by direction of the Permanent Organization Committee, I move the election of Alma McClintock as Permanent Convention Secretary.
The name of Alma McClintock has been recommended by the Permanent Organization Committee for the position of Permanent Convention Secretary. Are there any other nominations for Permanent Convention Secretary? Are there any other nominations for Permanent Convention Secretary? Any other nominations for Permanent Convention Secretary? Chair declares that nominations for Permanent Convention Secretary are now. All those in favor of Alma McClintock as Permanent Convention Secretary say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Alma McClintock has been elected Permanent Convention Secretary.
Madam Chair, by direction of the Permanent Organization Committee, I move the election of Tony Norton as the Permanent Convention Sergeant at Arms.
The name of Tony Norton has been recommended by the Permanent Organization Committee for the position of Permanent Convention Sergeant at Arms. Are there any other nominations for Permanent Convention Sergeant at Arms? Are there any other nominations for permanent convention sergeant at arms? Are there any other nominations for permanent convention sergeant at arms? The chair declares that nominations for permanent convention sergeant at arms are now closed. All those in favor of Tony Norton as permanent convention sergeant at arms say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Tony Norton has been elected permanent convention sergeant at arms for Jefferson Zone. I would like to thank the committee for their work and for your support. Thank you, Ben. As permanent convention chair, I name David Peake to serve as the permanent nominations committee chair, Richard Henson to serve as the permanent resolutions committee chair. The members of these committees are as follows. Permanent nomination committee members: David Peake, Bobby Gallant, Tiffany Miller, Mitch Unby, Beth McCracken. Permanent resolutions committee members: Richard Henson, Jim Pruitt, Robert Steinhagen, Jennifer Jeffus, Julie and Kelly Elander, and Marie Howard. I also appoint Mark Russo as permanent convention parliamentarian. Okay, if you are submitting, so we got the handy-dandy stuff there. If you are submitting resolution, you will have 30 minutes to submit it to the permanent convention secretary, who will then refer them to the resolutions committee for consideration. So we're going to break now for Precinct Caucus. We'll break into your individual precinct caucuses, 3A through B, 1B, 1A, etc. And you'll be able to discuss your nominations for state delegates. And if you have any other resolutions that you want to add that you didn't already submit. It is now. I'm sorry. David Peake's next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is David Peake. I'm the Permanent Nominations Committee Chair. I'm going to give you a few instructions before we break into precinct caucuses, because you're going to be submitting your list of delegates and alternates to the state convention. First off, I'd like to thank my committee, which is myself, Tiffany Miller, Beth McCracken, Bobby Galana, and Mitch Unby. Here's your top 10. Listen, this is number 9. Listen carefully. Lots of info. I'll answer most of the questions regarding your delegate and alternate selections to the state convention. Take some notes if you want. Feel free to come back to the nominations committee at any point if you have questions. We're back in the back left corner. Number 8. Total of 55 delegates and 55 alternates, as the Rules Committee Chair mentioned, from Rockwall County to the state convention. The state convention is June 16th to 18th in Houston. Based on how strong each county turned out for the Republican gubernatorial nominee in the 2018 general election, that's how it is determined how many delegates Rockwall County gets. A brief history. After the 2006 election, our county had 36 delegates to the state. After 2010, we had 44. After 2014, we had 51. And after the 2018, we are now allocated 55. So you can see the growth of the county and our voting strength. Number 7, a delegate will have voting privileges at the state convention. An alternate, this is critical, an alternate is eligible to attend all convention activities, but will not vote unless they are seated for an absent delegate. It is not a bad thing at all to be an alternate, especially if this would be your first state convention. Don't think that it is something less if you are selected as an alternate. 45 of the 55 delegates and alternates will be selected at the precinct level, and 10 delegates and 10 alternates will be considered at large and recommended by the nominations committee. The nomination committee will work this based on submittals from the precincts, with the 45 set aside for all of the precincts, plus the 10 that the nominations committee retains. That's 55 delegates and 55 alternates total to the state convention. Later, after the nominations committee completes our work, we will come back and present the entire slate of delegates and alternates to the convention for approval. When we recess here in a few minutes, each precinct will receive a sheet back at the nominations committee table to use that sheet to select the number of delegates and alternates from your precinct. That sheet that you receive is just a starting point. It's just a starting point to start the process. Each precinct will caucus and decide amongst its members who will fill your precinct designated district delegate and alternate slots. In the past, we have not filled all of our slots, so don't get too wrapped around the handle if you got 2 slots for delegates and 2 for alternates in your precinct, and there's more that want to go. On the bottom of your precinct sheet, there's a list for recommendations for at-large recommendations. I recommend not filling out your sheet as soon as you get it. I recommend doing a rough draft verbally or amongst yourselves or on some scratch paper. Because once you fill out that precinct list, it needs to be legible. You need to be able to see what you've got. When you're completed, when you finished your work as a precinct caucus, return that sheet to the nominations committee. If you don't fill up every slot, that's fine. And don't try and trade between different precincts. Just leave it blank, and the nominations committee will take care of it. If you have more folks interested in your precinct than the number of slots, that's fine. Just write their names on the bottom of the sheet, and you'll see what I mean when you get it. If you are unsure if you can attend the state convention, it might be best to list yourself as an alternate, or at the bottom of your sheet as an at-large nominee. The total cost per person for the state convention in Houston is probably going to be about $1,500. That's your hotel, that's travel, that's food, that's incidentals. So please only put your name down as a delegate if you are serious about attending the state convention in Houston. Again, those dates are June 16th to 18th. Feel free to come back to the nominations committee at any time with any questions. In a second, when we recess, Mr. Mitch Ownby is in the back, and he'll have the precinct sheet broken down by precincts. One person from each precinct, please come back and grab that. Once we complete our work, I'll come back here in an hour or so. I'll present the entire slate of delegates and alternates to the convention to be voted on up or down. Madam Chair, that concludes my recommendations and instructions for the precinct caucuses.
All right, very good. So we're going to caucus. 9:53. So we will reconvene at 10:23. Thank you.
Yep, that's perfect.
Please return to your seats within your caucus, within the commissioner's precincts, with your chairs turned and facing back to the stage. The convention is reconvened at this time. We are going to wait for the nominations committee to continue their work. In the meantime, we do have some candidates who are here to speak today. So I will go ahead and ask Russ Bafford, who is candidate for SREC Man, to come forward. You have 5 minutes.
Hello everyone, my name is Russ Bafford. I'm a fairly new person to Rockwall County, but we love it here. We moved here from the Denton area. And I'm going to be running for the State Republican Executive Committee Man position, which if you're a delegate, you'll vote on that position at the convention. My elevator speech, thought about this a lot, starts out something like this. God is real, the Bible is true, our party believes it, and so should you. And as a starting point, that explains where I'm coming from. I was born in the land of Lincoln. I didn't have any say in where I was born. I watched that state go down the tubes. I'm nothing like Adam Kinzinger, who's on the January 6th committee. And I went to school at the University of Missouri Raleigh, got a degree in mining engineering, mine bauxite, like the whole. I got a degree in civil engineering from the University of Illinois. Mine bauxite in Arkansas, and certainly in South America, and mine coal in Illinois. After a career in mining, moved the power generation industry, where we burned coal and made electricity. Everything in my life I've done with the left hand. In addition to that, I'm kind of a gun guy. I'm NRA, a certified training counselor. I used to shoot high power service rifle competition at Camp Ferry when my eyes were better. That brings you 200, 600 yards with iron sights. And so they changed the rules after
My experience, I had the experience to step into this position and jump right in and continue to work. I've always said this is not about me, it's about we. Anybody that stands in front of you and says, I am not gonna do anything other than we work together. It's not about me, it's about we. I serve with a awesome court. I have found out, and I think I said this before I took this position, I've got to have people. I knew in Roy City I had people. And one of my questions was, I've got to have those same people because you don't do it alone. And you've got to have resources. And one very important thing about being an elected official is resources and relationships. We've got 2 major roads that need to be enlarged because of our growth. So those 2 projects are on that line, along with others. I also serve on the Emergency Service Corporation Board. It is also a board of mayors, councils, county judge, med rescue. We all meet together and talk about our ambulance service and talk about our emergency management here in the county. So I've been on those 2 boards for 13 years. I serve on the Children's Advocacy Center Board. I serve on the Star Transportation Board for the county, Roy City Main Street, Roy City Parks. So I'm very involved in knowing what's going on within the county and within our city. So I thought I didn't have the time. So anyway, as I said, I ask for your support and your voice, and thank you so much.
County Judge David Sweet. Are you ready to, all right, come on up, thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. First and foremost, I want to thank you. Thank you for coming out today and being part of this very, very important process. This is exactly what being Republican, being grassroots Republican is all about. This is where it starts. So thank you for coming out. And then secondly, I want to thank you for allowing me the honor to serve as a county judge here in Rockwall County for the last 2 terms. I'm proud to be a candidate in this race that has a proven, fiscally conservative track record with a proven history of commitment towards our public safety, our court system, emergency management, overall quality of life. I'm proud of being a candidate in this race with an established commitment, a history of commitment of working with our commissioners' court, improving our transportation efforts, quite simply roads or a partnership with TxDOT, the Regional Transportation Council, as Commissioner Nickel mentioned a moment ago, in this fast-growing county. Prior to this, as I look across the room here, I don't want to take for granted that everybody is, I'm not quite sure, I think you know almost everybody in this room. Just in case I don't, I'll tell you a little bit more about me. Prior to serving as a county judge, I served 2 terms as the mayor of the city of Rockwall. After serving 2 terms on the city council in the city of Rockwall. During that time, prior to serving as a county judge, I spent 20 years in the private sector, 15 years with Coca-Cola. I spent the last 5 years with Bimbo Bakeries. I'm the proud father of 2 sons. I've got a 19-year-old Austin, graduated from Rockwall High School a couple of years ago. Still trying to figure out what his next step is going to be. And then I've got a 15-year-old sophomore, Brody, also at Rockwall High School. We heard earlier from Stan Britton that talked about broadcasting sports events for Rockwall ISD. I'm the other part of that. So if you've ever heard, listen or watch Yellow Jackets football, you can watch Yellow Jackets football on Rockwall ISD. Also currently serving as the president of the board of directors for the North Central Texas Council of Governments. My family is heavily invested here in the community. My sister, brother-in-law on TNT Color Supply in downtown Rockwall, and my niece and her husband own the pharmacy and general store in downtown Rockwall. Usually when I mention that, that's one most people are quite familiar with, because I think everybody shopped in there. Guys, the most important thing that I want to recognize right now as we shift gears, so I'm proud to be the candidate in this race. Well, with a reminder first and foremost of what we're trying to do here. We're selecting who's going to be the Republican nominee for county judge in this trial. The Republican nominee for county judge. You're the folks that I'm depending on to help me get over the hump. You're the folks I'm coming to. This is my 6th county convention. Looking forward to being able to serve as a delegate to the 6th state convention locally. I'm a founding member of the Rockwall County Young Republicans. I served as the vice president and president of that fine organization. I also served on the state level as the chaplain when our district attorney, Kenny Culpepper, was the state chairman. I have a history of service, served as the secretary, vice president, president, and of course, like everybody else, what's the greatest title in the world? Past president of the Rockwall County Republican Men's Club. So I'm not new to being a Republican. I'm not new to being a conservative. A proven track record of doing that. And again, in closing, we are headed to a runoff, so I'd love to have your support. It has been a tremendous honor serving as your county judge. I would love to continue serving that role because, as you know, Rockwall County is an amazing, special place to live, work, and play. Continue to be one of the fastest growing counties, not only in North Texas, and in the United States. The challenges come with that. But I think experience is extremely important, and I would be honored to have your vote in this runoff. If I can answer any questions, I'd be more than willing to meet with you. Thank you.
All right, and I got notice the nominations committee is still at work, and so we will proceed to the resolutions committee. Resolutions Committee recommends resolutions for consideration by the convention. The Permanent Resolutions Committee Chair will now present the committee's report. Richard Henson.
So
which were submitted by the Rockwall County precincts to be considered by the delegates at this convention.
The motion is to present all resolutions submitted by precincts to be considered by delegates of this convention. Is there a second?
I second.
John Locke seconds. It has been moved and seconded to present the resolutions for consideration by the delegates of this convention. All those in favor of the presentation of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have, was there a no? There was a no? No. Make sure. The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. The Resolutions Committee Chair will continue with the committee's report.
Okay, welcome to the Rockwall County Republican Convention. I do see a lot of friendly faces out there. Thank y'all for coming. My name is Richard Henson, and I am honored to be the chairman of this year's Resolutions Committee. It's days like today that makes me proud to be a Republican. So this is the time of the convention where you guys get to be involved in the process. So are there any other proud Republicans out there? Let me hear it. This is the portion of the convention that where we conduct the business of building our party platform. During this time of the convention, we're presenting the Rockwall County resolutions, which build our platform. You might say the resolutions actually defines who we are as a party. This is the grassroots that builds our party platform. One thing I can say, you guys have been busy. Y'all have been busy. Over 425 resolutions submitted from your precincts. Give yourself a hand for that. It is by far a county record, 4 times more than when we were here 2 years ago. So your resolutions were received by our outstanding resolutions committee, whom I'm going to introduce to you here shortly. But first I want you to know that this committee has been working really hard. This committee has sorted your resolutions into several categories. This would be categories like constitutional issues, national defense and border security, elections and integrity, criminal justice, education, just to name a few. After receiving your 425 resolutions, we discovered you guys were very, very like-minded. What I mean by that is many of you submitted identical or almost identical resolutions over and over and over again. So due to the duplicates in the resolutions, we were able to parse the 425 that you submitted down to 149. That's how like-minded you are. That's 149 resolutions. Still, every resolution is represented in this, and then your precinct individually will be credited, even if we combine them into one. For example, if we had 5 and we have 1, then all 5 of you get credit for submitting it. So, you guys ready to proceed? All right, let's go. How many of you believe that the Constitution of the United States was written to protect our God-given rights? Yep. How many of you believe that government should follow the Constitution and not trample on it? Yeah. I know that's true. I know that's true. Because you guys submitted 80 resolutions pertaining to holding our government accountable. Things like protecting our First Amendment religious liberty rights. Things like our Second Amendment to keep and bear arms. You've written resolutions for term limits. Can I hear us amen on term limits for government? No. You have submitted 36 resolutions, 36 against the atrocities of abortion. You've submitted 16 resolutions against the perversion of child gender modification. 21 against government-mandated COVID-19 vaccinations. Oh yeah, you'll get a chance to voice your opinions here today. Rockwall County, you make this place the greatest place to live in Texas. I'm proud to be from Rockwall County. So at this time, I want to introduce our resolutions committee. You can see them lined up over here behind the computers. When I call your name, I want you to stand up or wave, so these folks can show some appreciation for who you are. The first person I would like to introduce is our vice chair. Some of you might know him as Bunker Bob, Robert Steinregan. Robert is the most passionate resolutions person you will ever meet. Man, he was made for this stuff. It's been a real pleasure serving with Robert on this committee. You'll be hearing from Robert more today from this podium, as well as from the floor discussing some of the resolutions that we're presenting. Jennifer Jevis, who will be here in a little while, she's also serving as our secretary. Seriously, the fastest, smartest typist on the planet. And if you guys have kids in Rockwall ISD, you are extra blessed because she is a teacher in Rockwall Independent School District. I'd like to also introduce to you Jim Pruitt, our former mayor. Jim brings a whole new level of wisdom to our team. We were reading through some resolutions the other day, and I was still in the first paragraph of page 1. I looked over and Jim was already on page 4. So thank you, Jim, for serving. So you'll also be hearing from Jim today from this podium and from the floor as we debate some of the resolutions. I'd like to introduce you to Julie Helander and her husband Kelly, who's over here. We discovered in our precinct convention that Julie was a professional editor for a living, and Lord knows she needs some editing from some of those resolutions you guys turned in. Is Hayden really? And I'd also like to introduce you to Bree Howard. She brings to our committee a lot of experience serving on the resolutions committee in other counties in our state. So please let everyone do a big round of applause for everybody on the committee. So I do want to take a few minutes just to set some guidelines for today. We are going to use Robert's Rules of Order. Our very own judge, Mark Russo, is our parliamentarian. So don't mess up, you might not be able to hit. So, just the highlights. We have already organized and printed all of the resolutions. You have them available for review when you came in. I hope the font size is not too small, but it's already 70 pages in printing suspension. So you have those, and I saw a lot of you already taking notes on those. Thank you for using them. So, when prompted, you'll have the opportunity to make a motion and participate in discussion. So each time I want you to state your name if you want to make a motion, so that helps the secretary log the information on who made motions and who seconded it, right? Also, if you want a discussion, please state your name. Two persons, as our rules chairman Tiffany said earlier, 2 persons will be allowed to speak for, and 2 persons will be allowed to speak against a resolution, and you'll have 1 minute. If we do need additional people to speak, somebody can make a motion for an extra person, and we'll vote on that. So should you want to participate in the discussion, we'll form 2 lines. Is this it over here? We'll form 2 lines. If you are for, it'll be more on your right. Right versus left. Okay, thank you, Bob. If you are against, you line up over here on this side. If you want to speak for supporting a resolution or opposed to a resolution. Again, we ask you to introduce yourself, say what you want to say, and limit your time. Don't get hung up on little things, please. We believe we've already edited and corrected obvious errors. We've even seen one since we've been here, and we'll have that corrected in this process. The vote will be simple, yays and nays. So if you are in favor, we'll call for the vote, and you just say yay or nay. All right, and then we'll ask the nay, and then you'll say nay. Votes will be tallied by our great GOP secretary. I'll Alma McClintock. Please remember, always, always be respectful and courteous. You are allowed to submit resolutions from the floor. If you have some that you want to submit, just go right over to, actually, you come to her first, but she's going to send you right over there. We're set up to receive your resolution. We'll get it typed up and we'll get it formatted. We'll electronically send it up here. Probably be tacked on to the end, be one of the last ones. But more than likely, if you have one from the floor, out of 425, probably already have it. Just haven't seen it yet. It's probably down on the list. So if you're going to submit one from the floor, please look through the handout we gave you when you walk in. Also, we've got search tools. We can probably, you can't see it in there, we can probably search an Excel column quicker and find the subject matter. We can tell you, hey, we've already got that. If not, then we'll add it. Let's see, what else on this one? We are the Republican Party. It's important to know that not everyone gets their way pursuant to these resolutions. So it's very important through this process that we stay unified, right? Because we are the Republican Party. We are the good guys. We're on the same team, amen? So upon entering this morning, again, you received all the resolutions in a handout. I want to talk about time. At our 2020 resolutions portion, at our 2020 convention, we had 80 resolutions. At 5 o'clock, they were pushing us out the door because our time had run out of this space. And we were still trying to pass resolutions. So we've got a little bit of a time problem because we're going to present to you 149, which is almost double of what we had on the 80 from last year. So you guys understand the time restraint, right? So at this time, the Resolutions Committee recognizes Robert Steinhagen for a motion.
Thank you, Mr.
Do I have a second for that? Plenty of seconds. So the chair recognizes Robert Steinhagen for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, there's a lot of resolutions here. Resolutions 1 through 44 are resolutions that this body passed 2 years ago and ended up on the state party platform in the wording that you see before you. Therefore, placing it on a consent agenda does not mean that you can't debate or discuss any one of the items if that's important to you. So, all you have to do, if you want something taken off of the consent agenda, simply say, I object to item number 5, for instance, and that will be taken off consent agenda, placed on the table, and we will reconsider it in a separate and individual motion so that it can be debated. That's what a consent agenda is intended to do.
Do I have any more discussion? Anybody else?
We do.
Floor recognizes Jim Pruitt in favor of.
All right. So as to the way we did these is we went through all of these, and some of these resolutions had at least 5 to 10 authors on a bunch of them, okay? Because the same people submitted the same ones. I do want to say there is a problem with one of these that was brought up by one of our delegates, Sandra Olney, this morning. Thank you for catching that. If you will look at number 5 is not the state party plank, okay? So I'm going to take number 5 off of that, off of the consent agenda. I'm going to object to number 5 because number 8 is the state party platform that has that one in it. So we're going to take 5 off and object to that. So you see how this is done. If you don't want some of those state platforms that we have in 1 through 45, if you will come up here and say, I object, tell us what that number is, we'll pull that off and then we'll take those separately, okay?
Chairman recognizes Donna Rollander.
Thank you. I would like to remove number 31, ban taxpayer funded lobbying, and I'll explain later why. Okay. Yes.
We first need to approve the consent agenda, then you can object to any item that's on the state agenda, on the consent agenda. So I move that
right now, the motion has been made and seconded, and we're in discussion, so, proceed.
Okay, you want me to explain why I object to that, or just say where I object to consent, adding it to the consent agenda? I oppose to adding that to the consent agenda.
Okay. Point of order, go ahead.
We first need to approve the consent agenda. Once the consent agenda is approved, then you object to items being on the consent agenda. So I think we should vote on the consent agenda first, and then stand and object to any one of those. And you don't have to explain why.
Okay. Any more discussion before we vote? So we're going to remove those substitutes. We're going to make a motion to remove those. All right, parliamentarian is. Okay, got it, right. So the motion is to approve the consent agenda. Then, having a consent agenda, then we can debate whether all of the items stay on it or not. All right? So have a consent agenda. Thank you for clarifying. So we're going to vote at this time. Everybody, all in favor of having a consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. So now the floor recognizes Jim.
So, because you all have these in a written form here, I would like to dispense with the reading of each and every one of those individuals. So I would entertain a motion, I would make a motion that we not read all of these consent agenda items.
So the motion on the floor is that we not read each individual item aloud for the sake of time. All of these are on. Second, we have a second, AJ. Any discussion on not reading them all? If there's none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And there are none, the motion passes. So the floor recognizes Jim Pruitt.
Item 31, ban taxpayer funded lobbying.
Anybody else?
Robert Dorsey, Precinct 2A. I object to item number 25.
Think about Precinct 3D, also 25.
Hold on, not ready. Hold on, we're just trying to catch up with you. Number 5. All those ready? Hold on. Okay, floor recognizes AJ. Question.
Thank you, AJ Westler, 3D.
Anybody else?
Wes Johnson, 3D.
Oh, Wes Johnson, you're recognized.
3D, object to number 6 and number 26.
6 and 26.
Let me make sure I got that right.
25. You said 6 and 26, right, Wes?
That's what it said. And I got it wrong. It's 6 and 63.
6 and 63 is not on this. Yeah, we go to 44 on this. These are only the ones that are on the current state platform. change your mind at 26? Okay, the floor recognizes Dalton Tassett.
Dalton Tassett, 2C, I object to number 9.
Okay, anyone else?
I don't know if this is appropriate. My name is Judy Dixon from Precinct 2, but I like the kind better than I like the 8, so the guy had 8 off. I like the substitute. Maybe we can amend it to put elected federal and state offices. So does this need to be just say removed?
We're going to consider 5 individuals.
Okay.
So you have a chance to do it.
But should we eliminate 8 vote by doing that?
We'll leave it.
Or amend it? We can't do that.
Well, 8 and 5 and 8.
You want discussion on 8?
Yeah.
Yes.
Then objecting to 8.
Got it.
Hi, my name is Christine Kirby, Precinct 3. I object to 29 and 41.
What's your name?
Christine Kirby,
Christine Kirby, and you're
Precinct 3.
recognized, and you're objecting to
29 and 41. Thank you.
Les Chapman, Precinct 1. What's your name again? Les Chapman, Precinct 1. Chapman, Precinct 1. Yes, you're recognized.
We need to discuss 4, 12, 27, 42. Yes, sir. Roger that. Yes, sir.
Yep.
4, 12, 27, and 42.
Okay.
All right, so these are the numbers that we're going to consider individually, okay? This is just on that first big 5, okay? Number 4, number 5, number 6, number 8, number 9, number 12, number 25, number 27, number 29.
All right. So we're going to move now into the ones that we had an objection for the consent agenda, and we'll read those individuals. Okay. This is resolution number 4. It reads, we oppose any measure that would deprive someone of their right to possess firearms without being convicted of a crime or found mentally competent by the medical psychiatric professional, or that would cause gun owners to be investigated by law enforcement or appear before a judge when there is no reasonable cause of a crime committed. This includes state legislation such as red flag laws, social media monitoring, targets, gun owners, expanded background checks, mandated on personal firearm storage, government-mandated location restrictions such as K-12 schools with 51% establishment, federal laws such as PTSD-related restrictions, and the National Firearms Act. Do I have a motion to accept this? Motion? And a second? I got a second. Do you have a? Okay. So, had a request from a parliamentarian, will we have a motion and a second to go ahead and approach the microphone and introduce yourself so that we can track who's making the motions and we can track who's seconding it. Thank you. I know it's a lot faster just to say motion, and I'd like to do that too, but it's very important that we record it accurately. So now that we've had a motion and a second, do we have discussion? Okay, you're recognized. State your name.
Les Chapman, Precinct 1.
Les Chapman, you're recognized, Precinct 1.
Yes, sir, support the amendment, but I ask that we strike the following words. That would cause gun owners to be investigated by law enforcement. With the recent move by the Department of Justice to place parents who speak out at boards as domestic terrorists, that would place them in investigation status. Or to place them on no-fly list, that would require Homeland Security to investigate them. So I request those words be stricken. I move those words be stricken.
Okay. We're trying to look at the screen behind you and see help us see how close we are there. Perfect. That's it. Just the one, just what she's got scratched right now. That's it. The floor recognizes
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robert Steinhagen, Precinct 3D. As the author of this resolution, I agree with the amendment and consider it a friendly amendment. I'll second it. Is that what you're looking for? Second.
So we have a motion to amend it and a second. So we're going to take a vote on the amendment only, and we'll come back and take a vote on the resolution. So if you're in favor of the amendment to this resolution, say aye. Aye. If you're opposed, then there are none. The ayes have it. So now we're going to present the resolution to you. Now we're going to propose the same resolution to you as amended. So there was a motion already made and seconded, and then we amended it. So we can move right to a vote on this. So all in favor of this resolution as amended, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And there are none. The motion passes. Okay. We're working through this. Now we're going to pick up resolution number 5. This reads, we support term limits of 12 years for elected federal and state officials. Offices, excuse me. We support term limits of 12 years for elected federal and state offices. Do I have a motion to accept? We have a motion to accept, Jim? Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Adrian Bachman. Yeah, again, we're going to, I know it's going to slow us down, but to get the names, we're going to have to. So do we have discussion? Yes, a lot. We'll just need their name and who made it. So do I have discussion on this resolution? Anybody? You do? Yeah, Jeff,
All right, again, this is the one that we missed as far as the committee goes, that goes with number 8. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion that we consider 8, since it has to do with the very same thing, that we consider those together and have the debate on those, because the only word that's different in them has to do with the word elected. And so I'll make a motion. I know you have a motion on the floor, we're having a discussion on that, but I'd like to amend this to put in the word elected. The number 5, let me put it this way, that we take out the word elected, which will make it just like the state party plank is now. And then we'll have a discussion on that. So can I get us?
So we have a motion to edit the number 5 got a second, Adrian Baucom. Any discussion on the amendment?
Not very many comments, but I just feel like elected and being included is more clear. It makes it very clear who we're talking about. The other is more ambiguous, so I just prefer that we have the word elected in there.
So any more discussion on the amendment? State your name,
Erica Hatfield. Three. So without the word elected, that also includes, I would hope, bureaucracies.
Anybody else want to, do we have more discussion on the amendment to the resolution? State your name.
My name is Bob Chambers.
Bob Chambers.
We
recognize Bob Chambers.
I just want to echo the last comment. I'm not sure, it's not clear to me what this resolution is trying to do. Is it trying to make elected offices or all state and federal offices? I think that needs to be clarified before we move forward with approval.
Any more discussion on the amendment to the resolution? So we're going to take a vote to the amendment, not on the resolution. We're voting on the amendment, which was to have number 5 mirror number 8. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. All opposed? We're going to have to take a hand vote to count. If you're an aye on the amendment, raise your hand. We're going to take it to count. So, out of order, but I will explain it. All we're voting on is the amendment to remove the word elected from number 5 to make it mirror number 8. That's all we're voting on here. So if you're in favor of removing the word elected, raise your hand so we can count. All right, we have 23 ayes. So now, if you are opposed, raise to the edit. Raise your hand. So 23, the edit to remove the word elected passes. So now we're going to present the resolution to you.
What was the count?
23-19. 23 ayes, 19 nays. So the edit passes. So we're going to present this to you with the word elected removed, which also okay. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to present 5 and 8. Got one? Got a second? Jim? Oh, this is our motion to combine it? I'm sorry. Philip second. Thank you for clarifying. So any discussion on the motion made to present number 5 and number 8 at the same time? Any discussion? AJ, here. Come on.
Precinct 4. I just would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we add the words to exclude the Supreme Court in.
Point of order. That's not
discussion on merging 5 and 8? John White, come on up.
We, the people, that is the individual voters, only have authority over those people that we elect. We have no authority over the hirelings. The people we elect have authority over the hirelings. So what happens is the U.S. Congress sets the issues, the standards for personnel and all that sort of stuff for all the federal employees, and the Texas State Legislature sets the standards for state employees. We have no authority as voters over non-elected people.
What about parliamentary inquiry? Where are we in the process right now?
Hold on, AJ, be recognized, please.
AJ Westler, Precinct 3D. Are we debating consideration of 5 and 8 together, or are we debating the merits of the substance of 5 and 8?
We're debating, we're presenting 5 and 8 at the same time together.
So do we need to vote on that and then we continue discussion on what we're considering? Okay.
Any more discussion on merging 5 and 8 and presenting them together? There is none, so we have a vote. All in favor of merging resolution number 5 and number 8, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. So now we're going to present, let's go ahead and we'll present number 8, the new resolution number 8, because it still has, actually, did we? We wanted to remove the word 8. So now we're going to, so now we're going to go ahead and proceed with, we're going to call it number 5 now because we merged them, but it does have the word elected removed. So the new resolution reads, we support term limits of 12 years for federal and state offices. Do I have a motion to accept that resolution? Thank you. Do I have a second? State your name. Erica, have 1 second. Any discussion? Is this discussion in favor of or against?
This is a motion.
Okay. You're recognized, AJ. Discussion.
Hi, AJ Westler, Precinct 3D. I move to amend to include the words elected and appointed.
We already removed the word elected.
Correct.
So say it again.
Elected and appointed.
You want to add?
The words elected and appointed.
The elected has already been voted on now. Okay, yeah. amendment to reinsert elected and the new word and appointed to the resolution. So we support term limits of 12 years for elected and appointed federal and state offices. That's the first amendment. So we're going to vote on that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed to his amendment, say nay. The ayes have it, so we're going to move. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We're going to add elected. Thank y'all for keeping us straight. Now we're going to vote on the second amendment, which reads, you can see it on the screen, excluding U.S. Supreme Court justices. We've already had discussion on that. So should we discussion? All right, so if you guys want to discuss, anybody wants to discuss the second amendment to this resolution, please step forward. Are you for or against? State your name.
Dan Castillo, 3B. The people, we as voters, don't have anything to, that we can do with the Supreme Court. That's handled directly by the Congress and Senate. So that is mute in my opinion.
Any more discussion to the amendment to resolution number 5? If there are none, we're going to move to a vote just on this amendment. So we're voting on excluding U.S. Supreme Court justices from this resolution. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. We'll have to take a hand vote. If you're in favor, raise your hand. If you're an aye, raise your hand. If you're in favor of this amendment, we're only voting on the amendment. Okay. Now, if you are opposed to the amendment, raise your hand so we can count you. You A's must have been really loud, because that was a 5 to 25 vote that we called for. 26. So those opposed have it, so we're going to scratch that from it. Now we're back to the resolution as presented. The resolution now reads, we support term limits of 12 years for elected federal and state offices. Oh, thank y'all. Elected and appointed takes a village, state officials. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution as written? Any more discussion? So now we're going to propose number 5, term limits as amended. Again, we support term limits of 12 years for elected and statewide offices.
Get up there.
All right.
We have discussion on that?
So we have a motion and a second, right? We have discussion. Are you in favor or against? Jim?
I'm against.
Okay. You're against the amendment?
I'm against the amendment, the wording of it. Am I recognized?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Tim, I just wanted to say, where you're talking about statewide offices, if we use that word statewide, from a legal perspective, then it's not, like our state representative, our state senator, and all of that wouldn't fall under that, because they're not elected statewide. So if that's what you're trying to do, what we're taking out of that, I know exactly what you're doing, and I agree with you on that, but I don't want us to take out the representative and the senator out of the term limit.
Say
So-
how you would stand.
I'm sorry? what I'm having trouble without. As a lawyer, it would probably be 4 or 5 more sentences in there to make it specific, okay? But that's just the way it goes. But anyway, I just wanted to say, I'm against it just for that reason.
Okay, so.
Any more discussion on the amendment? This is only on the amendment. And there is none, so we're going to take a vote on the amendment. The resolution now reads as we support term limits of 12 years for elected and appointed federal and statewide offices. All in favor, say aye. All in favor, say nay. Nay. The nays have it, so remember the word statewide. Now we're back to the original term limits.
They'll never do it anyway.
Now the resolution reads, we support term limits of 12 years for elected and appointed federal and state offices. Do I have a motion to accept? I don't have a motion.
Motion to accept.
All right, we got one.
Do I have a second?
Second, Adrian, welcome.
Thank you, Adrian. Welcome. Any discussion? I move we go to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, and the county chair would like to say a few words.
Just some clarity for you. Number one, do not speak without recognition of the chair. We've got to keep this ball rolling, folks. We have 142. We're on 5. So we want to make sure we cover everything, but at 5 o'clock, we're out of here. So what, just remember, you've got a list of resolutions that you're looking at. If there's some that are more important to you than others, just make sure that you just keep that in mind. We want to entertain every conversation that's necessary, but we do have to be.
I say no discussion. We'll move right to a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. I don't know what that was for.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, yeah. Thank y'all. Number 29, gambling in Texas. We oppose the expansion of illegal gambling. We oppose and call for a veto of any budget that relies on the expansion of legalized gambling as a method of finance. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution as written?
Motion to accept. Erica Hatfield, seconds.
Okay. Do I have any discussion? Discussion?
Yes.
Please state your name and you're for or opposed.
Christine Kirby, not yet sure, leaning towards opposed. I want to better understand the clarity of intent for this one. So part of that is because, in my opinion, especially when there's 3 reasons. One, when we look at property tax reform or if repealing those, the government, the state's going to look for money somewhere else. Gambling, in my opinion, is an excellent source of revenue. 2, it's also individual right and choice and freedom as well as private business. So I do want to better understand clarity of intent and discussion on this one.
So, anyone want to speak for?
Yeah. Just to clarify.
Yes, so the idea is our schools are supposed to be funded completely now by the Texas Lottery. It's not happening. Every argument in favor of gambling in Texas has been based upon the idea that it will be a revenue generator. The problem is we're not looking at the other costs that are associated with gambling that other cities experience, that other states experience. And so this is a plank that we've had actually on the platform for, we had it 2 years ago, and I believe we've had it before that in a different iteration. But ultimately, gambling in Texas, the idea that we need gambling to take away property taxes is not really necessary. So if that answers your question.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Please state your name and are you for or against?
Robert Dorsey, Precinct 2A. I'd like to make a motion to amend
Go ahead.
Okay. So to the gentleman's point who just spoke, I also agree that we should not be expanding legalized gambling in order to fund educational programs or any other type of program. And so I would like to make a motion that we strike the first sentence entirely.
So we have a motion to strike the first sentence entirely. I have a second.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? So we're going to vote on the amendment. So if you are in favor of the amendment, which is scratching the first sentence, say aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. So now we're going to present the resolution as amended. We oppose and call for the veto of any budget that relies on the expansion of illegal gambling as a method of finance. Legalize gambling as a method of finance. And we don't need discussion on that, right? Okay. Okay, any other further discussion? Yes, sir, come on up. Mitch Land, are you for or against?
So what you're saying is, I believe, it seems like it's saying, we're okay with the expansion as long as you don't use the money to support government. So go ahead and expand. Let's have casinos, all the rest of it.
As long as it's not in the budget.
As long as it's not in the budget.